Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Visit NC webinar. We're really excited today to talk about marketing and what's going on across the state. I got a great group of people with us, part of our marketing team, that are going to help us talk about where we are, what's going on, and where we're going into the future. You know, marketing is all about creating change. It's a cause for change. And we've seen some tremendous changes in the last few years. We'll continue to see them through this year. So it's really our job to guide you through that change and to get the state to the place where we want it to be as quickly as possible. So during the webinar this morning, we're going to have several panelists. As you can see, they're going to speak about the collaborative impact the state's tourism industry has made in our response to the COVID-19 pandemic. And we're going to provide a glimpse of how we're building toward tourism recovery, a full recovery. I'm going to talk about some insights from the partner survey. We're going to have Allison Schultz. She's going to assess the accomplishments of Count on Me NC. Marlise, who does our research, is going to talk about the final wave of our resident sentiment survey, which we think is going to be really important to see where our in-state residents, where their heads are. And then we're going to share some highlights from the virtual media mission that Margot did with our PR team. PR is going to be very important this year. We're going to talk about the travel guide with Dana and social with Nick as well. So we're really excited about what we're going to talk about today and get us to the point where we need to be. All right, so that's the crew. You'll see more of them later on as we get to their parts of the presentation. Right now, I'm going to go over the partner survey. So I just wanted us all to kind of get an idea of where everyone is. We try and do this every year to get a feeling for where, if there's anything new partners are looking at to advertise, anything like that. This year, it was especially important for us because there's so much change out. We wanted to find where your heads were. We're really thankful that I think some 90 different partners responded to the survey. So it gave us a really good idea of I think, the state of DMOs and partners across the state. So let's look at some of the results. So one of the most important things we thought was budgets. Will people have the budgets to advertise? How much were budgets impacted? It's really been a fascinating year in that some places are doing extremely well, some places are doing extremely poorly. So I think this was interesting to see that 15% of our partners are going to actually have a bigger budget than they had last year, and about 15% are flat. So that's good news. The unfortunate news is that means that 60% of our partners are going to have less budget, and the biggest percentage of that is up to a 50% reduction in budget from last year. So there are going to be some people that are having a hard time this year. We're going to do everything we can to get our programs to be as cost effective as possible. And we're going to provide as wide a variety as possible to help those that have more and those that have less. When do partners anticipate starting marketing again? I think this was really great for us to see. We've been very cautious in our approach. We've really been focused on safety. We're marketing safety right now. We're not marketing inspiration. But it was great to see that many of our partners, the vast majority, plan to resume marketing right now in this fiscal year, essentially as quickly as they can, which is what we plan to do as well. So that was a great stat to see that you guys will be with us when we go out there for cooperative marketing. How are they going to use it? What are they looking at? Well, it's really interesting, I think, in that we've seen the expansion of social come out to now where most of the partners said they're going to place a lot of influence on social. A lot of talk, obviously, going on in social. People are scared still about the virus, and I think a lot of times they trust that social feed. They trust what their friends are saying, what they're hearing on their social networks. That'll be an important part of what we do. You can also see digital become very important, but print hasn't gone away. Print is still a very important aspect of what we do to set the mood, set the feel, and set the tone for the state. And then I'm happy to see the public relations, that everybody's into that. We're going to put a special emphasis on that this year. I think it is a really important time to have good PR out there because so many people are following what the media says when they make their vacation plans. What geographic markets are you focused on? Of course, and this is not cumulative. People could pick multiple markets. So in-state, of course, remains the most important market for partners, which makes sense. But it was great to see that Majority of the partners are still looking at contiguous states, and several partners looking at northern and southern markets as well. That will bode well for our plan as we shift back closer toward where we used to be, which was primarily out of state with a little bit of in-state assistance. We'll probably wind up somewhere in the middle this year, where we still do some in-state things, but we try and get back to those visitors from outside the state, from contiguous states that spend more and stay longer. How much advertising do you anticipate you'll be able to do? It was really great to see that so many of our partners, nearly 40%, more than 40%, have said they're going to do more advertising than before, and at least 20% have said they're going to do the same. So that's great to see. Of course, we do have partners that are going to do less, and even some doing only about 20% or even less than 10%. We understand that these are tough times, and we're going to do everything we can to support the partners that don't have the funds, but also give opportunities to the partners that do have the funds to do different advertising. Okay, and then rank below in terms of importance in promoting your destination with Visit NC programs. This was seasonality. We wanted to see, were people going to wait? Was there much more influence now on one season than another? It's great to see that that people really want to continue a steady flow of advertising across all 4 seasons. So we're excited to do that and match that with the co-op program. How important are the geographic markets to you as you plan your destination marketing? In-state, of course, is still important, but really great to see that that people still believe in those northern and southern markets and out of state. To what extent is your interest in programs to promote below areas of interest? I thought this was a really fascinating thing to see, the reemergence of golf in particular. As we've seen, golf has been tremendously resilient to COVID as a COVID safe activity. And it was interesting to see that so many partners now are interested in golf and to market golf. So we'll be looking at that. It's also interesting to see retire has really come up really well. People are still retiring, and COVID has not had the impact on that it's had on a lot of other aspects. Sports is very important too, and groups and meetings, that's something that's really taken a big hit, but it's still important to many of our partners, and we're going to do everything we can to support these things and help partners out with that as we move forward. Okay, so that was really a synopsis of the partner survey, what we've taken in from you. If there's anything you saw in there that you extremely disagree with, please let me know, because we'll look into that as we formulate our co-op program and moving forward. Another really important aspect of what we're doing is research. We've always been a research-based program. We have the best research person in the tourism industry, Marlise Taylor, as our director of research. So we're really excited that this year we were able to do some more research programs. Marlise is here to tell you about one of those that we think is tremendously important. Take it away, Marlise.
Thanks, Whit. Hey, everybody. Good morning. Nice to be here with you all. So yeah, I'm going to talk to you about our resident sentiment study. Just a reminder that we entered into a contract with MMGY back in May, early on in the pandemic, to perform a 3-part resident sentiment study to better understand the impact of the pandemic on the state and the tourism industry. The intent of this research, along with all the other research that we've done during the pandemic, has been not only to track the change of behaviors and lifestyles as a result of COVID-19, but also has been the backbone of the safety campaign and will continue to help us remain actively engaged as we move towards beginning to market to visitors once again. So this presentation, again, is going to provide results from the 3rd and final wave of the study that was fielded in late November, early December. And I also want to highlight, where appropriate, some changes from the previous waves. Again, just a reminder, a random sample of 1,200 North Carolina residents 18 years and older participated in this study, and we were careful and specific with 400 from each geographic region that was then weighted to the population. So here we go. Let's talk a little bit about the Count on Me and See awareness. If you'll recall, the first resident study that we did was before the campaign launched. But the second wave and the third wave, we were able to capture some awareness information. So awareness of Count on Me and See campaign actually increased from 20% in wave 2 to 25% in wave 3. Mountain residents were more likely to be aware of the campaign than coastal or Piedmont residents in Wave 3. And then when looking at the data by age and generation, younger residents were much more likely to have heard of Count on Me and See campaign with 40% awareness, which was up from 32% in Wave 2. While TV was the highest contributor to campaign awareness in Wave 2, you'll see that radio topped TV in Wave 3 with nearly 40% of awareness. Younger residents, again, 18 to 34 years of age, were more aware of radio, which I found surprising, at 50% than the older generations. I'm sorry, back to that other slide. You don't have to go back, Guy, but as TV was the top for the Count on Me and See awareness in Wave 2, that increase of 14% from Wave 2 to Wave 3 in radio awareness, I wanted to highlight because young people were a specific target to improve behaviors in terms of safety. So I thought it was really interesting that the young people, the younger generations, were more aware of the campaign. Of the residents who are aware of Count on Me and See, over half have rated it as quite effective in teaching them about health safety protocols to use while traveling. And over half see it as effective for providing information on health safety while traveling. Half of the residents also rate the campaign as effective in providing useful information and training employees on those health safety protocols. So let's look at some behavior changes. North Carolina residents remain committed to wearing masks and have become more likely to wear them over the course of the pandemic as we progress. You can see the arrows, the orange being the first wave down to the darker gray at the third wave. So you can see that residents have really committed even more so to wearing masks. 3 in 5 state that they wear masks whenever they leave the house, which was 19% over Wave 1. So there's a really good behavior change there. 83% say they wear a mask to indoor events and activities, which is 20% over Wave 1, another really positive behavior change. And 70% say they wear a mask to outdoor activities, which is 14% over Wave 1. In fact, when asked to list the up to 5 safety protocols that residents feel are essential to travel after COVID-19, you can see that face masks really do come out on top, along with social distancing and hand washing that continue to be the most common answers. Residents continue to be unlikely to attend large events or visit large cities. Home rentals also appear to be gaining in popularity as well, where travelers can prepare their own meals. That was another item that we found it very interesting and growing, that people do want to prepare their own meals when they're traveling. When segmenting this question out by generation, few significant differences were found, particularly in terms of safety protocols. So mask wearing in large crowds really were similar among the age generations. Younger residents, however, are more interested in accommodations where they can prepare their own meals. And of the geographic regions, Piedmont and mountain residents were slightly more likely to choose these type of accommodations than coastal residents. Almost 25% of residents are more interested in taking overnight trips in North Carolina within the state than they were before COVID-19. So I think this goes back to what Whit was talking about, how North Carolina is still going to be a very important market for us as we continue to recover. Mountain residents are slightly more interested in in-state travel as a result of the pandemic than coastal and Piedmont residents. For residents who are ready to travel in the next 3 months, while that's a smaller proportion of the public, they are more likely to participate in visits to outdoor activities, destinations, and attractions. And they will travel by car and stay within the state, visiting the mountain coastal regions primarily. They will also take more day trips and visit state parks. And again, while they're still hesitant to travel, they are become slightly more interested in metro areas and restaurants than in waves 1 and 2 of the survey. Mountain area residents, when we looked at it by geography, are more likely than coastal or Piedmont to travel by car within the state over the next 3 months. This may be a seasonality type thing. We'll kind of wait and see on that. They're also more likely to visit a state park and participate in outdoor activities in general. The availability of a vaccine will contribute to residents' willingness to travel over the next 6 months. Surprisingly, to me, younger residents' travel was more impacted by the vaccine than other age groups. While the vaccine rollout we know is slow, more residents than not say that they are more likely to take an in-state trip during the next 6 months as a result of the imminent availability of a vaccine. Residents rank the CDC and local health departments as most trustworthy sources when planning their travel. Friends and family trustworthiness actually fell about 5% from wave 2 to wave 3. Residents have also gained trust in official agencies to provide COVID-19 safety information, relying a little less on those family and friends. The youngest residents of North Carolina place the most trust in the CDC and local health departments, and they also place more trust in state tourism offices such as Visit NC than older generations do. Coastal and mountain residents place more trust in the local DMOs than those do in the Piedmont. So I thought these were really interesting comparisons between the residents of the different regions. And how do North Carolina residents feel about tourism's impact to the total recovery of the economy? North Carolinians increasingly view tourism as important to the recovery of the economy post-pandemic, an increase of from 71% in wave 2 to 75% in wave 3. Mountain residents, you could see in particular, view tourism as extremely important in terms of recovery. Coastal resident numbers dipped somewhat from wave 2 or wave 1 to wave 3, but there may be some seasonality in that, so I wouldn't worry about that as much. In this slide, residents feel strongly that tourism plays an important role in the state's economic growth. They also feel strongly about tourism's role in destination infrastructure. Economic growth of local communities and traffic, parking, mobility issues are also impacted strongly by tourism. And when we looked at the age generations, older residents think tourism has more of an impact than do younger residents. And mountain residents are more inclined to believe that tourism has a strong impact on the state's economic growth and local economy's growth than residents of the other regions. When we looked about advertising preferences and how residents feel about tourism being advertised in North Carolina and within our communities, residents overwhelmingly prefer to see advertising for North Carolina destinations on TV. And mountain residents, you could see, also have a high interest in social media and digital advertising. I think you can see how important North Carolina residents are going to be in our recovery just by these few short slides, and the importance of gauging their sentiment in terms of in-state travel. I'm going to turn the presentation back over to Whit now, but please feel free to ask any questions as we get to our question and answer session. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm going to make sure I'm unmuted before I say anything. Thanks, Marlise. We really think it's going to be important to look at what residents feel like as we move forward. We've tracked this. We'll try and do as much as we can with that, and we continue to track all different kinds of research. In fact, I want to talk about some of the additional research that we're doing for this program and with some of the CARES Act funds that we've gotten. We know that there are a lot of areas that are of importance to our partners. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is very important. We've taken in the Black Traveler Study, which is the first in a series to be conducted by MMGY Travel Intelligence to understand and advocate for underserved traveling communities. We're going to look at that, make sure we're representing properly what the state is made up of, so we can make sure that we're doing things the right way. We're also working on a meetings and conventions travel study. We know the key focus of this study will be to see how COVID-19 has impacted the meetings industry and how meeting planners as well as attendees are thinking about meetings. The meetings industry in the state has taken a beating, and we're going to try and do everything we can to help. So this is going to look at what they collectively value as we move into 2021 and beyond. There'll be 4 quarterly studies surveying both planners and attendees. And we really see this as a cost-effective way to get valuable insights about the meetings and convention industry and to be able to share these insights with our industry partners. So we're proud to be able to offer these and hopefully they'll help the state and get our programs back to where we need to be as we continue to grow these important markets for the state. We're also going to participate in the Portrait of an American Traveler. This is a really important study done by MMGY Global. It's a very insightful look at emerging vacation habits. As we know, we can't just do business as usual this year. We need to be on top of where people's heads are, where their mindsets are. And the Portrait of the American Traveler is one of the best ways we can find that out. 4 seasonal editions. We'll get a custom profile of potential NC visitors and be able to add our own proprietary North Carolina questions. So we're really excited about these programs in which we're boosting up our research efforts to make sure we have all the proper data to do the best possible program that we can. And now to talk about those marketing programs, both what we've done this year and going into the future, I'm going to introduce Allison Schultz. So thrilled to have Allison working with us for the last year. She's done a tremendous job, came in probably the most challenging time you ever could, and has done, I think, a really amazing job of pulling together quite a program. I'm really excited to see what she can do with us coming into the next year. So welcome, Allison.
Thank you so much, Whit. And I am so excited to just hear the insights that Marlee shared on resident sentiment survey. For us, we had to fundamentally change everything that we did last year, all of us, our entire industry. And we really did build a movement, and we changed lifestyles when you can see the shifts in behavior when masks were so polarizing. So seeing a lot of these insights are very encouraging as we begin to move forward and start inspiring travelers and our residents to travel again. So I'm going to dive into the results of our Count on Me and See campaign. I've been sharing insights with you about its performance over the course of the last several months. The campaign, the paid media campaign, actually did wrap up at the end of December. It was fueled by $15 million from the CARES Act and earmarked by the state legislature. So the results that I'm sharing today will not only cover residents where we targeted, but also those bold travelers in the contiguous states. So let's move on to the next slide. Just wanting to share again, I think Marlee's, she mentioned this, that awareness is one of the KPIs that we set to ensure that this campaign would be effective. And the one thing that I really do want to share as you look at these media plan parameters is, there are great ideas all the time, and these great ideas can go unnoticed. But I think the effectiveness of our campaign really is tied to the creative deployment. Our jingle really did stick, and you're going to see that not only in this deck that I'm sharing, but also in what Marlee shared in audio being such a strong performer, radio being such a strong performer for us as we look at the recap. So again, the objective is to promote North Carolina as a safe destination among North Carolina residents, as well as those bold travelers in our contiguous states. So on the next slide, and I'm going to move through these fairly quickly because I got a nice surprise towards the end of my presentation that really recaps it nicely for all of you. We wanted to make sure that we had a mass presence for Count on Me and See, and I'm sure you saw our advertising quite a bit, and it really ramped up in Q4. But you can see from all of these mediums here, we had a very, very strong presence, and we saw that resonate through resident sentiment study. So on the next slide, I wanted to share where did we really land by December 30th. We actually delivered almost 285 million impressions. And when you look at the total completed video views, where video was so important, along with that jingle, we had over 101 million completed views. So we're excited about this. And as I mentioned, even you can see on this slide here, many impressions were delivered in that last month. And a lot of them really fell in the area of broadcast television. And, Marlee's mentioned that many of the residents in North Carolina really do look to television for their source of ad information. So on the next slide, just wanted to share quickly a little bit digital by channel. We are going to share this deck with all of you today. So you'll be able to kind of go back and look through it. But you can see audio performed extremely well with more than 56 million impressions. And then video was so critical to our efforts, whether it was connected TV, whether we were utilizing YouTube or any other medium to get our message across. So on the next slide, I just wanted to share a little bit with you. I don't think I've shared this before on our performance on broadcast and cable. We were able to really get the message out across the state, and we did so very effectively by placing our spots in where you find a high audience. It's premium positioning in those shows that really matter to a television audience that you can see here on the right, from the Emmys, college football, NBA finals, NASCAR, and how we had brand partnerships that aligned with that, NBA Christmas, and a lot of the shows and the playoffs. We made sure our message was right front and center to the audiences we most wanted to reach. So on the next slide, out of home, I think many of you have shared that you've seen quite a bit in out of home. I think the thing that really I want to point out is that bathroom advertising was the first time that we have really deployed inside of bathrooms, and it was very effective. Actually did provide us some good, strong added value at the end of the effort. And then I think you'll see soon in our surprise what we were able to do in transit to really get our message out there to pedestrians and travelers. So on the next slide, this is important to me. You know, I mentioned early on in the campaign that this effort was fueled by $15 million. You know, that's something that generally Visit NC doesn't get an additional $15 million to market and promote. But our team was very, very effective in how we negotiated media, how we placed the media and aggregated the media. And I wanted to share that we negotiated and earned over $855,000, nearly $1 million in total added value. And we're actually continuing to add to that number as we get the results from various vendors. But I'm really proud of what we were able to accomplish here and showing that we are really good stewards with the budget that we were allocated. So on the next slide, the slide that I have been waiting on, is I wanted to share with you an update, a new SIZZLE reel, a program reel for what we have been able to accomplish with Count on Me NC. I think it does a much better job than even the slides that I just shared with you to really show the excitement. And honestly, I need to applaud everyone who is on this call, because the success that we had in this campaign really extends to you and how you got your communities very engaged and involved in terms of business training, getting behind it, sharing the message out there, and really making a great splash. So I'm going to let Guy tee this up and play the SIZZLE reel for you this morning.
In 2020, COVID-19 changed everything. People and businesses had to alter the way they worked, lived, and traveled. As the social and economic impact of the pandemic became clear, Visit NC shifted from inspiring travel to encouraging safe practices with a public health initiative called Count on Me NC.
It's called Count on Me NC.
A catchy jingle helped break through the noise with a smart and memorable safety message.
Keep your distance, wash your hands.
And targeted advertising brought the Count on Me NC message to a wide audience in both English and Spanish, with high-profile placements seen by millions. From NASCAR races to the Speedway itself, we drove awareness and impressions. We enlisted fan favorites to rally support and made our mark just about everywhere. Whether they were filling up at the gas station, washing their hands in a public restroom,
Keep your distance, wash your hands.
or remixing our jingle on SoundCloud.
Open for business, but we're all in this.
People people in North Carolina got the message loud and clear. Through a multi-channel media plan that included nearly $1 million in added value placements, the campaign garnered more than 284 million paid media impressions and earned more than 228 million organic impressions in North Carolina alone. In total, all 100 counties in the state participated in Count on Me NC, and more than 16,000 businesses earned training certificates. 1 in 4 residents said they were aware of Count on Me NC, with a 4-point lift in the last 3 months of the campaign. Its powerful message did more than reach a wide audience. It actually changed behavior too. In a statewide survey, 75% of respondents said they were more likely to wear masks, and 68% said they were more likely to avoid large gatherings. Ultimately, Count on Me NC helped residents and businesses band together to keep one another safe and help the economy move forward. In 2020, there wasn't much that was certain. But with Visit NC's help, the resilience of North Carolina's people and businesses was one thing we all could count on.
You can count on me, NC. Oh, you can count on me, NC.
So I think everyone should give yourself a big round of applause for that effort. We're going to make this sizzle reel available to all of you later today. We'll add it to the partner toolkit, and we'll get it out, I think, in a message with news links. So be looking for that later this afternoon. Out of that $15 million, we pretty much have exhausted our budget for paid media, but it doesn't mean Count on Me NC goes away in 2021. We're going to continue to weave that into our message as we start to move that pendulum more into inspiring travel again. The training site at NC Extension is live through June, so you can continue to encourage businesses in your communities to take that training if they haven't done so. We're planning on continuing that Count on Me NC message across our owned assets. So you're going to see it on our website. You're going to see it in email blasts and across social media. And the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to really try and drive awareness to those businesses who have taken the training in some of our social media activations. And with that, I actually want to go ahead and turn the mic over to Nick Parker, our digital strategist, who is really laser focused on social media, and talk about some of the successes we've had already in weaving safety in with inspiration. So without further ado, Nick, you can take it away.
Thanks so much, Allison, and thanks for having me back. And as mentioned, I'm happy today to talk to you a little bit about how we modified our approach to social media in 2020 to account for the pandemic and the safety messaging we needed to incorporate. But first, I'm going to back up a little bit and talk about where we were when the pandemic started last spring. And basically, we shut down for a little bit like everyone else did. And the challenge that we faced is the same one that all of you faced, which is how do we as a travel brand talk about what is so naturally endemic to what we do in a time when traveling isn't really recommended, allowed, a good idea in some cases. And at first, our shift was to go over almost entirely to safety messaging. We really strongly hit the Count on Me NC messaging. We talked about safety and mask wearing, even at a time when it was perhaps not always popular on social with the entire population. But that said, we discovered that that sort of messaging coming from us didn't feel natural, and it was definitely shown in some of the statistics that we got back from our social channels. So we took a new approach, which was to weave in, as Allison said, that safety messaging with what we naturally do in travel, which is to show people inspirational things that get them thinking about travel. Even if they couldn't come to North Carolina as much as they would have liked to, we could at least get them thinking about it and planning for it. And so the most successful content that we had last year, as this slide mentions, is stuff that still talked about events or itineraries or destination focused, but also we were able to weave in a little bit of that safety messaging. People were still looking for it. The stats definitely show that people still wanted to kind of escape into our social media to get those pretty pictures they're used to, but we're able to kind of add in a little bit of that safety messaging. And on the next slide, you'll see some of the examples of how we did this with some of the social creative that the LGA team came up with. We've shared a lot of this in the partner toolkit, and it's still available there for you, especially our good friend Skating Sunny there. But the idea behind all of these is that we're still able to talk about a very inspirational travel message, but we're also able to have that safety messaging brought into it. We've got masks shown here. We have mentions of distance and traveling safely. So the idea being that we're still able to do what we do best, which is to inspire people to travel to and in North Carolina, but we're also able to help them do it safely. And so on the next slide, we talk about some of the results that we showed from this. And one of the most impressive stats that we've seen is that a couple of our holiday safety Instagram stories vastly outperformed some of our average stuff, mostly because that holiday stuff always does well for us, but the idea that we're able to weave in that safety messaging and talk about going places in a pandemic safe way really resonated with a lot of our users. And you can see that on the next slide. We have some examples of those holiday safety stories. So it's just little things, right? Whether it's just saying safe ways to visit, or safely treat yourself to a future staycation, where we might say just treat yourself to a vacation in the future. The little changes that we make, the little tweaks, while we still have these pictures that would otherwise run in any other year, really helped us reach that audience with the message that we wanted them to get, which is, come visit, but do it safely. We knew people were still going to be traveling. We can't necessarily control that. So we wanted to make sure that those who do are doing it in as safe a way as possible. And then talking about paid, you can see that we definitely had some very successful iterations of our messaging once we kind of, as I mentioned, got to that, weaving together of the two different messages. And it really hit heavily with a lot of folks who had travel and outdoor affinities, which makes sense, right? We know for a long time that the most pandemic safe activities involve getting outside, being able to explore our beautiful outdoors that we have here in the state in a way that is still, respectful of social distancing, mask wearing, and all the other things. So we were very happy to see these results and to see that we were able to still run an effective paid message that reached the audience we wanted with a message that talked about inspiration and safety together. And then we have some examples on the next slide of some of the community management. This was another huge focus for us in the past year, which was making sure that we're meeting visitors where they are. If they're commenting, if they're talking to us, they're trying to ask questions of us. We had way more questions than usual about, how can we do this safely? What can we do that's going to make sense? And we also had people who were really buying into it. You can see some of these posts talk about folks really getting behind, whether it's the Count on Me NC messaging with Sunday and the Richard Petty did up there, whether it's, the US travel stuff that talked about don't leave home without a mask, whatever the case may be, got a Count on Me NC business there. We have folks who are buying into it. We wanted to make sure that our voice was joined with theirs and supporting them and showing that, yes, we're not just saying these things, we really believe in them. We want to support them and make them a successful thing. So kudos to our social team working hard on the community management. We've more than doubled our efforts in this area, and we think that's going to continue in 2021 as community management continues to be a focus for all brands, not just for travel brands, but especially for us, where we have to kind of meet people where they are. And speaking of meeting people where they are, we have a little sneak preview of something we have coming up here for you guys. But this is going to be a transitional mini campaign for us that's going to bridge the gap between our current heavy safety messaging going back into what will hopefully this spring and summer be a more traditional inspiration message. We're gonna have to get people back traveling, but we're gonna have to do that in a way that makes sense for them. And so the team has come up with a really wonderful idea here that we're calling drive-through vacations. That gives people the opportunity to engage with North Carolina travel content from the safety of their own car. So we have a lot of beautiful sites and a lot of wonderful places that can be visited, as a drive-through. And we've even got some cool takes on that here, whether it's the GPS computer or we've got the drive-through menu that we're hoping to maybe work with some brand partners on getting in place at different drive-through locations. So the idea here is that we can let those places that still need people to come, and we're going to definitely focus on Count on Me NC businesses and local partners here. We're working on ways right now to tie in visitor spending and make sure that people aren't just driving through, but they're engaging in meaningful ways, whether it's grabbing some food, whether it's even planning a stay, whatever the case may be. We really want this to be reflected in people actually putting money into the local community they visit. But the way we're going to do them there is drive-through vacations. So the idea that you can avoid those big crowds that are still not entirely safe and still be able to see the beautiful things we have on offer in the state. So none of this is for release yet. These are all things that we're still working on, and we're going to be able to talk more about as we get the site and the article that we're writing for it up, which should be coming in the next few weeks. But it's just something we wanted to tell you about because we're excited about it, and we hope you will be too. And speaking of things we're excited about, up next, I'm going to turn it over to Dana Grimstead, who's going to talk to you a little bit about the 2021 travel guide, some of the changes we made, and how we're looking to the future with this new edition of the travel guide. So take it away, Dana.
Thanks, Nick. And hey, everyone. This year's travel guide truly is one of the best guides I've seen from North Carolina and our publisher, Meredith Travel Marketing. If you can remember, this time last year, we were preparing for the Travel Guide Roadshow. And exactly 1 year ago today, January 20th, 2020, a patient in the United States was given a diagnosis of the infection with the coronavirus by the state of Washington and the CDC, the first US patient 1 year ago today, exactly. But COVID was still relatively a thing of international worries for us. And while the guide was almost birthed in a pre-pandemic world, we were already in a position to pivot and adjust accordingly. We edited the content within the guide to make it as COVID friendly as possible. And we added more content for our consumers to engage with. We positioned the content to include all 100 counties in the first part of the guide. All 100 counties are always covered in the travel guide, but this is the first time we were able to succinctly integrate all 100 counties into planned editorial in the first part of the book. We removed the listings this year and were able to add 22 pages of inspiration-based content to the guidebook, allowing us to naturally weave even more stays, eats, and arts and culture-focused destinations into the reader's experience. We arrived at a book sitting right at 108 pages plus a 6-page cover. Additionally, this year, we were able to offer a discount off of our regular rates and work with partners on participation. We introduced a new formatted ad section called Places to Explore to offer to smaller destinations and CVBs, which was handled similarly to the Places to Stay offering. We maintained our state and local information pages for easy reference. And we wove in critical Visit NC focused efforts like Outdoor NC to make the guidebook relative year-round, especially to bridge the consumer sentiment transition as travelers get back to tried and true. Next slide, please. Thank you. We went one step further and created the Travel Safely insert that addresses concerns made urgent by COVID-19 with the help of partners investing their CARES credit funds. The insert highlights outdoor activities, recognizes local safety efforts, and directs travelers to countonmesc.org to find hotels, restaurants, and other businesses that have completed the training. We had a total of 350,000 inserts printed. 150,000 of those are in the early distribution of the Visit NC travel guide. And then 200,000 of those were polybagged with Meredith brands, like this one here, that was polybagged in the February Parents issue. The 2021 North Carolina Travel Guide truly invites readers and travelers seeking joy in the familiar and delight in discovery to get back to a better place following the disruptions of COVID-19. And next, I'll introduce Margot for a PR update. Building on the success of our virtual media mission in October, focused on female entrepreneurs, the PR team hosted its second virtual media mission event last week, which focused on celebrating some incredible and exceptional change makers in North Carolina. And now I'll turn it over to Margot Metzger, our PR strategist who led this effort.
Thank you, Dana. Hi, everyone. It's great to be with you this morning. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the PR team's efforts to engage with media and help them tell stories to their audiences that will inspire travel to North Carolina when folks are ready. So our most recent virtual media mission, this was our second, was focused on a group that we call change makers. These are folks who draw strength and inspiration from the past and become a positive force that pulls forward history. So we worked with some folks from all across the state, including an oyster farmer, 2 entrepreneurs who are renovating Green Book era sites and bringing them into the present day. We worked with an artist whose depictions of Black joy are changing people's perceptions, as well as an African-American Puerto Rican craft brewer from Fayetteville. And we were thrilled to have a special guest host who moderated the panel for us. I know all of you are familiar with Deborah Holt-Noel of Public Media North Carolina, or UNCTV. So this was a chance for us to really connect media with the stories of these folks. And the original focus for the media panel was Black History Month, but the stories we want to share really transcend the limitations of that 1 month period. So we've decided that it makes sense for us to use changemakers as a theme throughout the entire year of 2021. Thanks to those of you who have already reached out with your ideas about changemakers in your region. If you have ideas and you haven't shared them with me and Suzanne, please do. We had a great group of media represented on this panel. Folks from Essence, Veranda, USA Today, Coastal Living, the New York Times, MSN, Toronto Star, the Globe and Mail, National Geographic, and quite a few more. So we are eager to continue to work with media on this topic, but I also wanted to tell you a little bit about our other PR priorities for 2021. Again, change makers, you know, sharing those stories of positive voices that are a welcome conversation, a welcome addition to this conversation about social justice. And again, it stems from Black Lives Matter, but it certainly is much more broad than that as we think about this idea of entrepreneurs and cultural figures who are really making positive change. So the second priority for us is cities. As many of you know, our Piedmont cities were devastated by COVID-19. And so these urban centers, being less dense than a lot of cities around the globe, are great for outdoor spaces that people don't even realize are there. And we think that they warrant some real consideration for leisure travel. So our plan is to weave these urban destinations into our pitching and our media visits whenever it makes sense. So Piedmont cities, we are looking out for you. Another priority for us is North Carolina wine, and many of you who've known me over the years know this is near and dear to my heart. And we think that wine travel is important and worthy of consideration because sadly the West Coast has dealt with a lot of issues with winemaking related to wildfires, and also because North Carolina's profile is rising. You know, people are starting to really appreciate North Carolina wines, and they do well during COVID-19 because of their outdoor spaces. So we are planning to build this winery pitch and make it inclusive. I mean, certainly this is a topic that, you know, not every single county has wine assets, but so many of you do. Wineries, vineyards, wine experiences. It could even be restaurants or wine bars who include North Carolina wines on their menus. So please do reach out if you have stories that you'd like to share with us. And finally, Outdoor NC. This is a major Visit NC initiative that will remain integral to the PR program. And it centers around leave no trace, safety, responsible use. And so part of the initiative is to avoid promoting high use places at high use times. And we are working on the potential for some influencer work around Outdoor NC. So stay tuned for that. The PR team is working hard to make sure that when travelers are ready to return here, that they have, a lot of excitement and a lot of confidence in visiting our state safely. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Allison. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Margot. Gosh, you've only been back with us for 3 months and you've already made such an impact in our PR efforts. And we're just so glad that we have you with us. So thank you so much for that update. I remain enamored by the work that you and Suzanne, do together. So thank you so much. So moving on to the next slide as we wrap up today's presentation, I thought this was a really great image, the pendulum. We had to fundamentally change directions in 2020, all of us did, to just survive the pandemic. But, we are moving forward and we're gearing up to reset that traveler mindset and that traveler journey in getting back to a better place. You see it on our travel guide. You saw Dana, she teased it up a little bit, but that place is North Carolina. And getting back to a better place is not only going to be the theme of our Visit NC 365 virtual tourism conference in April. It's actually going to serve as our overall brand positioning as we launch our new Inspire campaign. And Guy, you can go ahead and shift and show. I'm going to give you just a couple of sneak peeks, but I can assure you the big unveil will not happen until our tourism conference in April. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be targeting travelers who not only have a really strong affinity for North Carolina, but they're also yearning, and this is what we've learned through traveler sentiment studies, they're yearning for those tried and true experiences as they come out of this pandemic and begin to travel again. So for the big unveil, you got to make sure that you register for the conference, and registration opens up on March 1. I know many destinations, across the country are going to have similar things, but I can assure you that our creative execution is really going to differentiate against our competitive set. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Whit, I think, who's going to lead us in a few questions on Q&A. But it's been a great session today, and I'm glad everyone's been with us.
Thanks so much, Allison. Thanks to the entire team. And we're going to bring everybody back up for questions. So just put your questions, if you have them, in the question box over on the right. We'll answer them. We're really excited to get to the point where we can get back into the inspiration business. But we're not going to go there before it's going to be effective. So, that's the key for us really is going to be to take Marlise's research and keep an eye on that for when the moment is right to jump back into the inspiration business. We're looking forward to getting back into it. I know you guys are, and we're going to get there as soon as we can. Okay, I'm going to read the first question. The survey seems to indicate television being where people are most welcoming travel messages, but partners indicate a less TV advertising in their plans. Will the Visit NC Co-op help fill that gap and make TV more affordable for DMOs?
Well, I will say that our RFP was issued yesterday, and that our agency is taking a very careful look at the results from the partner survey, and we'll be looking to build out some really effective programming for all of our partners who can take advantage of the co-op. And we're looking and hopeful that we will get that co-op out ahead of our, our tourism conference in April.
Yeah, and I think too, we have to realize TV is no longer just that thing that sits in a cupboard in your living room that you turn on when you go home. It's really now all over video that we watch at any time. As many of you guys will be watching the inauguration today, so on different devices all over everywhere. So we'll do as much as we can to get as many people engaged in the program for sure. Let's see, any other questions? Can smaller communities, towns, especially in the Piedmont, tie in with the city pitches in a similar hub and spoke manner? So Margot probably.
Sorry, Whit, I couldn't quite hear you. Can you say it again?
Sure. Can smaller counties and towns, especially in the Piedmont, tie in with the city pitches, maybe to do sort of a hub and spoke kind of thing? I think that'd be possible.
Yeah, absolutely. We really just want to make sure, I mean, I think it goes without saying that our open spaces are going to be important for pitching throughout 2021. I mean, even when people are ready to get back out there, they're still going to have that feeling of really wanting some elbow room. So I think that that's a natural advantage for anybody who's got open space. We just want to make sure we are including our cities and including them as part of an itinerary, you know, but absolutely, it goes without saying, we will include wide open spaces very broadly.
Great. Okay. I think we did an awesome job because there aren't a lot of questions. You know, I did want to say, Dana, so we talk about Meredith, and I think Meredith does an amazing job. Not a lot of people know a lot of the added value that we get through them, right? They do a lot of other things for us, such as the polybagging and giving us ads and other in some of their Meredith publications.
Yeah, we have a whole host of added value that they include for us, including transferring all of the information in the guide into blog format so that we can use it digitally. And they also have added value that we, in addition to the safety insert, we also have added value that we polybag our guide with in the Atlanta region, in Georgia, and other regions, so we can get our travel guide out throughout the year.
Great. Another question come in. Folks are excited about working with NC Wine. Will there be a collaboration with the NC Wine Growers Association? Yes, there most certainly will. We're very familiar with those guys, and Margot especially. I don't know if you want to talk a little, Margot, but we will definitely work with them on that program.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we are planning to be in touch with anyone who has a passion or mission to promote North Carolina wine. So that's the Wine Growers Association, the Wine and Grape Council, the North Carolina Wine Guys, the North Carolina Fine Wine Society. I mean, there's a lot of different perspectives to bring to bear on this effort. So we will be definitely talking to everyone.
And then we had another question. Marlise, do we have any idea where MMGY is going to be pulling the meeting planners for the survey? And would it be possible for some of our DMOs to provide meeting planner contacts for them to use?
Yeah, certainly. I don't have that list. I don't have that information right in front of me right now, but if you want to pass it along to me, I will be happy to speak to MMGY's contacts about that.
And one good thing too,
if whoever wants to email me personally, that's fine as well.
I think one of the awesome things about participating and sponsoring in this survey is the MMGY intelligence, their willingness actually to work with our urban cities who were really focused on the meetings business. So we have some proprietary questions that will be included in that survey, and that's where I think Marlise can work closely with you on that. And then the other thing that I think is really awesome is after each quarter, after these studies are performed and done, and we have the key findings, they're willing to actually do a webinar for us, so that if you are involved in the meetings business, you can glean, you know, greater insight and really query and ask questions about the results of the studies.
Great. Okay, and then one for social for Nick. So Nick, what do you think is the biggest change you've seen in social marketing as we've gone through the COVID crisis?
I think we talked about it a little bit, just in the sense of having to kind of leaven in the safety messaging that wasn't previously there, for sure. But I think it's also, you know, on top of that, it's been destinations re-examining what it is that really makes people want to visit and how they can capture that and package the essence of it into a different way. Whether it's, you know, we talked a little bit about drive-through vacations, whether it's reimagining the ways that you visit places. You know, we saw a lot around holiday, around people being able to express the spirit of the season without having the big crowds that we're used to in a lot of different ways. So I think it's really understanding your destination at a very granular level and what it is that brings people. And it's not necessarily the things that you thought it was, and being able to express that and being able to be really honest and transparent with people on social about that, I think is a really welcome change that's going to have lasting repercussions in a very good way.
Yeah, I think what I really saw with, particularly with the holiday season, is that COVID has brought a lot of people a lot of questions. So it's even more important the roles that we play as DMOs across the state to get that information out. So, we had people thinking a lot of these Christmas events had been canceled when actually they had just been shifted or altered, or as we all like to say, pivoted to something else. So it's really, I think COVID has made us as DMOs even more important in the process now, because things are changing so quickly and we're the ones that have the official information. And social is a great way to get that out and get it out quickly. All right, one last question. Are the travel guides 2021 available for distribution at this time? Dana?
Yes, they are available. They were delivered early January to our distribution center and our welcome centers across the state. So we are distributing them, and people can order them online and also view the digital version of the guide online as well.
Yep. And if you've got a welcome center and you need travel guides there, you can email Kathy Prickett and she'll get some boxes sent out to you right away.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. We really appreciate it. Thanks to the team, as always, for the great job you're doing. And thanks to our partners out there across the state for doing a wonderful job keep welcoming people to North Carolina. We'll be back in about a month, and we'll be getting ready for our conference coming up. For any news on that, go to visitnc365.com, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks a lot.
Bye.